Okay. All glories to Mother Natasha. All glories to the religion of love. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to our Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings and be an example of love in the world. Jai. Okay. So, if you're following along on the PDF, we're on the middle of page 212. And we're in the book, The Mission. Blessed are we, said he, for in our time God is uniting by love what man has divided by hate. For in the religion of love are we shown the unity in diversity, as all are included, as does God include all. Then spoke the Master thus, that every religion was given by God as a religion of love. And there is always one, continued the professor, who will ask, how can you say there is but one religion when we see there are many? So I answering, as it is written, say, different religions may be likened to the digging of a well. If you dig for water in a rocky place, you will need a certain type of equipment. And if you dig in a sandy place, you will need another type of equipment. So on the surface there will be differences, but the goal of both wells is the same, water. And water once reached is water. So it is with religion, which is given according to different language, custom, and culture. On the surface there will be differences, but the goal of all religions is the same, God. And God, once reached, is God. Often I am asked, says the next disciple to speak, if the religion of love is an Eastern religion. And so comparing the religion of love to the sun, I say, the sun may appear to rise in the east. That doesn't mean the sun is an Eastern sun. The sun shines for everyone. A disciple, the only son of a rich man, says, those with wealth fear they must be made poor and have to give up every material thing to follow the religion of love. And I, relieving them of their ignorance, say, if poverty was the criteria for holiness, every beggar on the streets of this city would be a saint. And that material opulences such as wealth, beauty, name, and fame are in themselves neither good nor bad. A knife in the hands of a surgeon may save your life. A knife in the hands of a murderer may take your life. So it is not things which are good or bad, but the use made of them. And the perfection of life is not to give up everything, but to use everything in the service of good, in the service of God. Others ask of dress, seeing we wear no special dress or hairdo, as must other religions. And I answering them this, a donkey may be seen carrying many books. That does not necessarily mean he is a scholar. So also the dress of a man says only what a man would have you believe of him, not necessarily what he is. Words can cause a problem, says another disciple. Some balk at the word religion, until I explaining that in the religion of love, the word religion is used in its original meaning. Re, again, and ligio, to link. Religion, the process and practices by which one can come again to God. Others trouble over the word sin, until I again explaining that the word sin, as used in the religion of love, is meant to be understood in its original meaning. First used on the archery fields of medieval England, the referee would call out sin if the shot was off-center, giving the bowman a chance to adjust his aim. There is no connotation of guilt or shame associated with the word sin in the teachings of the religion of love. The word love is also confusing, for most can find no suitable definition, and so ask the meaning as used in the religion of love. And so I speak as it is written, saying, in speaking the word love, I do not speak of feelings. Feelings come and go. I do not speak of romance. Romance comes and goes. I do not speak of desire. Desire comes and goes. When I speak of love, I speak of the eternal, ecstatic, spiritual state of I speak of the eternal, ecstatic, spiritual state of a love that grows, that does not come and does not go. Okay. All right, here's some commentary. So last week, we ended the class with this lovely analogy of the 4 blind men, each trying to describe an elephant, and how each holding on to a different part of the elephant had a totally different idea of what the elephant was. And so they began to argue with one another, saying only he is right and the other's wrong. And so it is with religion, being divided by man, broken up into sects, so that religion now cloaked with costume, custom, and culture appears to be different religions, and the name of God spoken of in all the languages of all the lands divides the Lord who is one into many, and so they fight each other, claiming only they are right and all others wrong. So this is a clear synopsis of the world today. Quite clearly, we see the division, the animosity, the conflict between quote-unquote this religion, that religion, this religion. That is the current status of the world today. But here it says, blessed are we, for in our time, right now, we're all being witness to this right now, God is uniting by love what man has divided by hate. So, quite clearly, these divisions are man's doing, not God's. And to say that it is God who has separated us, or it is God's will that we not mix with such and such other people, that is the blasphemous ignorance of man. That is not God. God is trying to unite. I won't say trying. God is uniting by love, by the pure truth of his message, showing the unity within the diversity, as all are included, as does God include all. We're all God's children, no matter what race or gender, nationality, species. We're all God's children, and he includes all of us in his divine plan to return us home to him in love. And yes, there is great diversity. I just mentioned some of the parameters: race, religion, gender, species, ethnicity, etc. There's a lot of diversity, Sure, but variety is the spice of life. It'd be quite dull if everything was all the same, wouldn't it? There's no problem with the diversity of this world. The problem is the ignorance which sees diversities as cause for division. The problem is not the diversity, the problem is ignorance, which the Lord is rectifying through the light of knowledge, cutting through the darkness of ignorance that has shrouded this world for so long. And then spoke the Master thus, that every religion was given by God as a religion of love. It says also in the Religion of Love book, anyone who practices purely any religion given by God is practicing the religion of love. If you come to love of God, that is a fulfillment of religion, of God's message. And like this example of the digging of a well. How can you say there's but one religion when we see there are many? No, there isn't many. It's just many different styles or means to reach that end. Like, obviously, digging a well in a rocky place versus a sandy place, totally different type of equipment. Totally different. So you might think on the surface, wow, it's so different, there must be a different goal. No, they're both trying to reach the water table. That's the goal. And though a Hindu may pray in Sanskrit in a temple, or a Muslim pray in Arabic in a mosque, each bowing down in a different posture, though the style on the surface is different, the injunction that they are following to pray, that is one, as God is one. So they're just surface differences is all it is. Now, back to that analogy of the elephant. It reminds me of a saying Mother Natasha would often say. You're trying to accomplish a large task. She would say, how do you eat an elephant? And we'd all look at each other. Well, first of all, we're vegetarian. We don't want to eat elephant. But she would smile at us and really mean it, like, how do you eat an elephant? And she'd say, one bite at a time. So, rolling with that same analogy, you can imagine the unlimited scope of God's knowledge. How much do you think a person can absorb? A person can really digest, can really stomach, really savor? A whole elephant's worth in one sitting? Probably not. Might be too much, TMI, or you can't comprehend it. So the Lord doesn't give the whole elephant, or doesn't give all knowledge at once every single time through all of his messengers. Because for one, who even has the ears to hear such transcendental knowledge? For the message of God isn't heard with the ears, but with the heart. And for most of us, our heart is barely open at all to be able to hear God's message, to hear the spiritual. I mean, you can hear the words, you can listen to it, you can read them, but does the heart hear it? And if the heart is closed or covered over, it can't. It just goes right over. Doesn't stick. Speak to the level of the listener. The messengers of God know well their audience. Especially being empowered by God, they know what they're meant to give, what is necessary in their time, in their place, for the people to practice, to follow the path, and come back home to God. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said unto his faithful, "There's many more things I've yet to tell, but you're not ready yet." Thus is the same with all messengers. Even my master, Mother Atasha, I knew she held back. There was many more ethereal, advanced, transcendental teachings that she could have taught us disciples, but she was speaking to our level. So you can't absorb all God's knowledge, which for one is infinite, is unlimited. But throughout time, the Lord does give a glimpse, a taste. He does give knowledge and instructions, His injunctions, His scriptures, always given in remembrance of Him. For one whose heart and mind is open, and you wish to make a submissive, surrendered study of God's message through all the revealed scriptures, under the guidance of a devotee, that's important, so that your mind doesn't get led astray by your own interpretations and misunderstandings, of course. But if under the guidance of a devotee you do study all the scriptures, it will help you to get a better feel of the elephant, instead of just holding on to the leg or the trunk or the ear or the tail, but get a whole bigger picture and realize it's, elephant, despite what all the different blind men are describing it to be, is one same animal. And so is religion, is one same process by which we come again to God. Skipping ahead here, she says the word religion, as used in these teachings, is used in its original meaning, re, which means again, to repeat, to recycle, re again. Ligio means to link. To link. One of the meanings of yoga is to yoke. Yoke, like when you put a yoke on the back of a bull so that it can pull the cart or pull the plow. To yoke, to link. So religion is the process and practices by which we relink, we reconnect, we come back again to God. That is religion, bringing us back to God. Purifying our consciousness of all things not of love of God, till we are again fully realized in our natural state of eternal, blissful, loving service unto the Supreme Lord. This is religion, and yes, this process is one. Now the practices may vary, the styles of which you worship may vary, that's the diversity on the surface. But the goal, the aim, the heart is one, just as God is one. He has unlimited names, but God is one. Then the next disciple says, he's often asked, is the religion of love an Eastern religion? You've heard me explain concepts that are familiar with the Abrahamical scriptures, such as reincarnation, God's forms, etc. So, is this an Eastern religion? You believe in reincarnation? No, reincarnation is a fact. Just as gravity is a fact, whether you believe in it or not, it will act. No, the religion of love is not an Eastern religion. Again, religion is one, we forget to say, right? So in a nice analogy, the sun may appear to rise in the east, That doesn't mean we call it an Eastern sun. The sun shines for everyone. And the same goes for the teachings of every messenger of God. Though they appeared before different peoples in different times, the message was always meant for everyone. Just like the teachings of Muhammad, of Jesus, of Moses, Krishna, how those teachings have spread far and wide. They're meant for everyone. It's not that Christianity is well, that's probably the wrong one to start with. It's not like Islam is just an Arabic religion. No. It's not like Judaism is just a Hebrew religion, or Bhagavata Dharma, Sanatan Dharma is just a Hindu or Indian religion. No. It's meant for everybody. I confuse Jesus because, the West has pretty much commandeered Christianity, so even though it began in, Israel, Palestine, it's, you know what I mean, guys. So it's meant for everyone. The message is for everyone. Every messenger of God is for everyone. Every holy book is for everyone. And if you're not into every holy book or every messenger, that's fine. You don't have to be all stoked about them. But don't be offensive. Let's say you don't like German food. Well, you don't have to talk smack on the Germans, palate. You just don't have to eat it. Okay, you're into the Bible. You don't want to read the Quran. That's fine. It's not your taste. That doesn't mean you have to blaspheme the other scriptures, other messengers. Just live out the teachings that you are attracted to, the message of God, the holy books that you are drawn to. That is fine. You don't have to make a study of all the scriptures. You don't need to be a knower of God's message of every part of the elephant, rolling with that example. What matters is that you practice purely what you can comprehend, what you are drawn to. Practice it purely, with love. Love being the way, the means, the goal, everything being of love. That's what's important. And then we go to this one. Oh, this is what people are always afraid of religion. What I have to give up. Oh no, I have to give up my money. Says the disciple, the son of a rich man says, those with wealth fear they must be made poor and have to give up everything material to follow the religion of love. And I relieving them of their ignorance. This is an ignorant conception. Because we think that to be holy, to be spiritual, I have to negate the material. I think to be more spiritual, I have to have less material. This is a misconception. And though it is true that many realized saints were very austere and renounced and did not have much, if any, material possessions, that was not the criteria of their holiness. It was their pure heart, their pure consciousness, their surrendered love. That was their criteria of holiness. If poverty was the criteria for holiness, then every beggar on the streets would be a saint, right? That'd be really easy, wouldn't it? Just give everything away and boom, poof, I'm enlightened? No, it ain't that easy. God is not cheap. I say cheap, I gave up billions of dollars. No, still, it was easy to do. The hard part is changing your heart. You can't buy the spiritual. But that doesn't mean that material things are bad. I mean, any opulence, such as wealth, beauty, name, fame, renunciation, wisdom, intelligence, knowledge, all of these opulences are neither good nor bad. They just are. Example of a knife. I can save your life if I was a surgeon. I can take your life if I was a thief or a murderer. Can't blame the knife. It's the use of it, right? So you can't blame money. It's the use of things that determine their results. So the perfection of life is not to give up everything, but to use everything in the service of good and the service of God. For the devotee of God knows that everything is God's property. So everything should be used in God's loving service. And anything that can be used in service shouldn't be rejected. Here, I'm using a computer, I'm using a cell phone, I'm using all these gadgets, I'm using the internet. Warm jacket. I'm not rejecting these things, saying, oh, they're all material. But rather I'm trying to utilize them in a manner pleasing to God. And this is devotion. Others ask of dress. Seeing we wear no special dress or hairdo. No, I have no special hairdo. No special things going on that might distinguish me from anyone else by appearance sake. No. And Mother Atasha was always so cheeky. She says, a donkey may be seen carrying many books, but that does not mean he's a scholar. So just because if someone wears some robes or has big beads or has dreadlocks or matted hair, bunch of paint on their face, whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what he is. It's just what he wants you to think of what they are. It's not necessarily who they really are. And it's just outward things. Who cares? It's fine to have all these differences. I'm not knocking it. Of course not. Diversity, right? It's fine. To each their own. But again, these are not criteria for holiness. These are not ultimately necessary to surrender unto God in love. Doesn't matter what style your hair is in to chant the holy names, or what clothes you're wearing to hear from the scriptures. No. Doesn't matter. It's what's inside that counts. It's what's in your head, not on your head, that matter to God. And we'll wrap up class with these two different definitions. Here's another hot word. Religion's a hot word. It's a triggering word for people. We explain what religion is. We know what religion is not properly in understanding. It's not a group. It's not, it's nothing worldly, what we think it is. It's not. It's something in your heart, something you live. And the word sin is not to make you feel guilt and shame or to cast judgment on you. That's not what sin, this word, is for. Oh, you're a sinner. Oh, you've sinned. Oh, I'm so bad. I'm such a baddie. No. Sin is what we call anything that is not directing us towards God. Or, in this case, the archers of medieval England, if they miss the mark on their target, the referee calls out sin, meaning you missed the shot, adjust your aim. So any action, words, thoughts that isn't directing you towards God in love is by definition a sin. You're missing the mark. You're not guiding your life in that supreme direction, but in a worldly one that will just keep you further entangled in the samsara of birth and death, the cycle. And of course, there's bigger and worse sins, obviously. Some sins have heavier repercussions than other ones. Like murdering a person doesn't have the same reaction as, watching a mundane movie. Although technically they would both be in the category of sin, since they're both a material activity for your own self-interest and not for the pleasure of God. Well, it's pretty sick if you had murder as a self-interest, though. But anywho, the idea is that sin is just something you need to work on. Adjust your aim, adjust your sight. And the last is word love, which people get caught up on, and it means so many different things to so many different people. So very clearly, it's not feelings, it's not romance, it's not desires, it's not anything of this world, because all those things, including worlds, come and go. When we use the word love in these teachings and the religion of love, it's always meant in relation to God. And it's the only word that comes close, kind of close, but nothing really does, but comes close to the experience of your natural state in your relationship of service with God. Love is the only word that really comes close to that. So to speak of love is to speak of God. Love is the eternal, ecstatic, spiritual, our natural state of being. And it is eternal. It's constantly expanding, growing, doesn't come, doesn't go. This is real love. Okay, I've gone over. So let me switch up to questions and answers. All right. Does anyone have any questions? And again, forgive me, you can't see my face because of the bandwidth issue. I hope you guys still heard me this whole time. I didn't sound like a robot, God willing. Upload troubles today.
Yeah, your voice was okay, pretty okay.
Oh, good. Did you happen to have a question, my friend?
Not yet. I was thinking like would it be like all religions are like completely true, or like all religions like have parts of the truth, and some religion has more truth than the other?
Okay, good question. In case my microphone didn't pick that up, our friend is asking, are all religions true, or some of them not, or do some have more truths than others? Right? So, that's a good question. Well, to clarify, we're speaking of religions as given by God, not man-made religion, which there are a number of them. There are some made-up religions out there that aren't bona fide. And we're not going to consider those, things that are just born out of man's own imagining. No. So speaking only on what God has given. And we can narrow it down to what you know of, like the scriptures, of course, that go hand in hand. Sikhs, the Guru Granth Sahib, Islam, the Quran, Christianity, the Bible, New Testament, Judaism, the Old Testament, Tanakh, Hinduism, or more appropriate term, Sanatan Dharma or Bhagavata Dharma, and its many scriptures, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana, the Upanishads, the Puranas, Vedanta Sutra, the four Vedas, etc. And of course, there's many oral traditions passed down in many indigenous cultures. So these are what we're referring to as God-given religions. And every single one, in its core, as it was originally given, and I'm not talking about the mistranslations and changes over time to the scriptures by man, but what was originally given by every messenger of God, given purely, was all of the same quality. The same quality. the same essence of love of God. Now, of course, the quantity may differ. As I just mentioned, those Vedic scriptures, there's a lot of quantity, voluminous scriptures I just aforementioned. And obviously, being so voluminous, there's a greater quantity of knowledge that has been revealed versus, let's say, another scripture that is a smaller book. So quantity may differ, but the quality is always one. So speak to the level of the listener, as I mentioned before. There's a lot of concepts, a lot of teachings that may be a little too advanced for a certain time and place and people. And I use the example of the Prophet Muhammad in Islam. Just imagine his time. Saudi Arabia in that time where he grew up in Mecca, where he lived in Mecca, was very pagan. They worshipped false idols. There was all these conflicting tribes. There was no worship of one God. Even the concept that there is one God was above and beyond most people's heads at that time. When we say, what do you mean? There's so many gods, so many idols. There's Baal, there's Ishtar, there's this, there's that, right? So, for Muhammad, who was enlightened by the Lord and through the grace of his messenger, the Archangel Gabriel, enlightening Muhammad with love of God, awakening him to his natural state of eternality, knowledge, and bliss. He may be aware of vast quantities of God's message, of God's knowledge, but, speak to the level of the listener. First of all, we need to get it across that there is one God, only one. Not that there's multiple gods. That's the fallacy. That's the ignorance. That was the first hurdle. For example, in Prophet Muhammad's time, and then all the great teachings on morality, ethics, on worship, on prayer, on the holy names, etc., etc. So different times, different place. Now the quality is always one. The consciousness of every messenger of God is always that of love, loving service to the Lord. But the quantity in which is revealed at certain times may differ. Unfortunately, what also happens over time is the message which is given purely by every messenger in time gets corrupted by the corrupt minds of man. Things get changed in the scriptures themselves. Other quote-unquote scriptures are written by man that provide so much more interpretation, more cultural dogma, that may not be what the messenger of God, what God himself intended. For example, in the religion of love, we honor and revere all the scriptures given by God, which I mentioned, many of them. The Quran, for example, we honor and revere. But the hadiths, in which there are many hadiths, that is a little bit of contention. There's some susness to the various hadiths and conflicts, and much of the problems with the philosophy of Islam is not from the Quran but from the hadiths. So we don't accept the hadith, just the Quran. And the Bible, we accept the teachings of Jesus and the Gospels. But after Jesus, the various organizations, various churches in his name have created their own doctrines, their own policies, their own books, their own rules, their own philosophies. And they say that these are God's will, and they use their own books, their own philosophies, in tandem with God's message, and call it all God's message, which, again, is a convolution, is a corruption of the teachings. So we don't accept the various church doctrines, which are made by very political men, just the Bible itself and what Jesus taught. The same with the Tanakh, the Torah, all the old books of the Old Testament. We accept these. But there's a lot of sus things in the Talmud, which is all the, again, interpretations and teachings of various rabbis over time. Some very strange things in the Talmud. So, and someone might say, well, there's a lot of good things too. Well, yeah, sure. It's not like everything in the Hadith or the church doctrines or the Talmud is bad. No. But it's not 100% pure. Not by a long shot. And we don't want to drink something contaminated. As I said 2 weeks ago, if you want water to drink, if there's a little bit of poison in that water, is it safe to drink? You might say, oh, it's only 1% poison. It's still 99% good. What will happen? You'll still die. Doesn't matter the quantity of poison. It's impure. It's not a proper source of hydration. Neither are these unauthorized books, which people claim to be scripture. They are not pure sources of knowledge. And how do we back up and vet spiritual knowledge? We do so by 3 sources: by the revealed scriptures, Shastra, by the spiritual masters who descend in disciplic succession, an unbroken lineage of pure devotees, Guru, and by the revered holy saints, who are the living inspiration of God's message. Sadhu. Sashta Guru Sadhu. Or I like to say Guru Sadhu Sastra. It has more ring off the tongue. If knowledge can be backed up by 3 sources, by these 3, then you're on safe ground. And much of the accessory books to the scriptures cannot be backed up by these 3 sources. Maybe there was some sadhus, some holy persons, revered holy people that backed them up. But you might not be able to find bona fide spiritual master or the scriptures themselves to back it up, etc. So this is how we vet spiritual knowledge. So every religion that God has given has always been given by Him to remind us and bring us back to Him in love. And it may not always be given in the same quantity, but the quality is always one. And if you seek more quantity, I should say, then yes, it'd be a good idea to know what God has revealed. It would be nicer to get a better idea of what the elephant is instead of just one little part. Take a step back, get a better view. Same with religion, as God has given, which is all one. You have a much better conception of what God has given and His mission if an understanding the inner core, the inner teaching being one, and that everything else on all the differences is just on the surface. It really would help one come closer to love of God. Most definitely. So, I hope that answers your question, Amani.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Great. You guys have another question or comment, perchance? We have another 15 minutes. Or we can stop there.
Yeah, I guess I don't have any questions.
All right. And Brother Yeti, you're good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Pretty self-explanatory. Nice context, for a number of different religions, different tools, knife and things, but sort of makes sense. But a lot of religions sort of missing the point now a little bit,
Yeah. I think we all kind of missed the point.
The rich Catholics, with the most wealth in the world is the Catholic Church, and some of the other religions aren't far behind either. So.
You're right. They have kind of missed the point. We all have. The whole point of this life in general. We make the point of our life the seeking of gold, not the seeking of God. What do we seek? We seek wealth, we seek enjoyment, we seek pleasure. We want to have fun, we want to feel good. These we seek. And it's natural to want to enjoy. It's natural, desiring to feel happy. But we're looking at happiness in all the wrong places. We're looking at it in all the temporary, illusory places of this world, in these material, temporary bodies, and other temporary bodies. That's what happens with religion, is that it's become hijacked by the illusory energy. It's become very worldly. And as you mentioned, the Catholic Church is the wealthiest, biggest land-owning organization in the world. Great material power at their command in this world. Yeah. They've done very good at accumulating wealth. But at what cost? Well, as Jesus said, what profit a man if he gain the whole world but lose his immortal soul? See, when we seek all these worldly things, the accumulation of wealth, the accumulation of power, of land, when you seek to have more followers, more of this, more of that, more and more and more, you sacrifice the purity. You lose the heart of God's message. And then what's left? Dead rules, dead relics, dead rites. There's no heart left in it, just a bunch of ritual. Oh, we're just doing as my father did and his father did before him. It's just custom now. It's just part of your culture now. That's all it is. Custom and culture. When the heart is lost. The goal of life is to become again madly, ecstatically in love with God, to return home to the spiritual world, to free ourselves from all suffering, birth and death, and go home to God's kingdom. That is the purpose of life. That is the goal. And if that's not the goal, to be in ceaseless, surrendered, loving service, then our priorities are all wrong. We're all mixed up. And I'm not saying, oh, if that's not your goal and you have other goals, you're bad. No, I'm not saying that at all. But that must be the supreme goal, though. God must be the supreme goal. And you should be aiming for pure devotion, to become again enlightened. And work towards that every day. Give us this day our daily bread, right? It's okay to have all these other little goals. It's okay to have your day job. It's okay to take care of your family and, watch a movie after a long day. Play a little games, video games. That's all right. We need to, decompress. We don't just give up all material pleasure and enjoyment right off the get-go. We don't become renounced and spiritually realized, on day one of chanting the holy names. But the supreme goal needs to be always at the forefront every single day, working towards that, towards love of God. But our priorities are mixed up. God is not the greatest goal that we as a people on earth have. For the vast majority of us all, religion or spiritual life is a side note. If anything, it's just a cultural obligation for many. Who's actually seeking to be enlightened? Who's actually seeking to be realized or to be fully surrendered in love unto the Lord? No, this isn't people's goals. Very few people ponder the great mysteries of life, the great questions of who am I, where have I come from, where am I going? Very few people. There's so little desire for the spiritual because we're so enamored and consumed by material desires as the all in all. But there needs to at least be one supreme spiritual desire. And the problem with all these religions, and mainly is because you have so many misleaders. See, the leaders of religion do not actually live the message, are not actually in ecstatic love of God. They just know what to say and wear what they're told to wear and act in a manner that they were taught to act. That doesn't mean they're enlightened, realized devotees, no. So it's the blind leading the blind. We have misleaders in religion. So the great ruination of religion has been the leaders of them not actually living the true message of God. Much of them don't even know what the true message is because they're so accustomed to teaching the propaganda, to teaching the false doctrines that past generations of them have made up, the interpretations of the message, which has all been done to suit religion for their own worldly desires, rather than practice purely what God was given to transform their desires to become completely spiritualized. They'd rather change religion to suit their ignorant minds than change themselves and free their minds of ignorance. This has been the downfall of quote-unquote religious organizations throughout the world. And all parties are guilty of this, every corner of the globe. But that's why we just stick to what was originally given by God's messengers. And if you're confused what that inner teaching is, well, by God's grace, here's these pure, simple teachings of the religion of love, by the mercy of God's representative, his spiritual master, Mother Ratasha, giving the same message, the same inner meaning as was given again and again, but now so clearly, so self-explanatory, right, brother? It's so clear. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But as we said last week, though it seems like common sense ain't so common. But I keep trying to live it and give it. So, any last thing anybody wants to say at all? Comment or question? We got a few minutes.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah, good as well.
All right.
Sorry.
What's that?
Small important.
Oh, that's your background noise. Okay. Okay, we'll end there then. All glories to Mother Ratasha, all glories to Religion of Love, all glories to the assembled devotees. Jai.